A Tennessee man who was pardoned by President Trump has been sentenced to life in prison for plotting to attack FBI agents and attempting to incite a civil war. Edward Kelly was the fourth rioter to enter the Capitol on January 6th. He faced a separate investigation for targeting federal agents who were looking into his role in the Capitol attack. Now Kelly is set to spend the rest of his life behind bars. For more, let's bring in CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, what more can you tell us about what happened in this case?
Yeah, Jolene, our CBS News review of this case shows that according to the Department of Justice, it was during the investigation of Edward Kelly's role in January 6th that he began targeting the FBI agents and the FBI overall that were part of the investigation into him. This began in 2022, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. There was some type of plotting, amassing of resources, if not a plan and a way to execute the plan to target federal agents. They call it conspiracy for murder. So Edward Kelly, who was pardoned on January 20th for his role in the U.S. Capitol insurrection, now faces a life prison term for what he did while under investigation for the U.S. Capitol insurrection. There has been, as this week ends, no pardon for Edward Kelly in this separate case, which is being prosecuted in the Eastern District of Tennessee.
How many other people who were pardoned by the president have since faced new criminal investigations, Scott?
Oh, there have been some, including one who was arrested just days later on a gun charge, and another, a Texas man, who was actually freed from prison because of the pardon, not just having his slate clear, but was actually released from the prison gates, who was later charged with child solicitation. That's what's happened so far. But one of the warnings that Justice Department officials gave during the Biden administration was that if there are pardons, these are people with a history of recidivism, of criming again after they get released, and we're seeing that play out already here in 2025.
You also have some new reporting on the opposition to the FBI's planned move of its headquarters to the former office of USAID. What have you learned?
This is a controversial move. The FBI changing offices, leaving the 50-year-old J. Edgar Hoover building, which, to put it charitably, is falling apart, to a different office space in Washington, D.C., in the Ronald Reagan building. That may seem bureaucratic, but there are a lot of concerns here. First of all, because law and funding require it to move to Maryland. A new site was being planned out and soon would be constructed in Greenbelt, Maryland. The Trump administration is defying that and instead deciding to move in Washington, D.C., to an area that critics say is not properly secured and not properly equipped to house the nation's top law enforcement investigating agency. We expect, Jolene, there to be legal challenges and congressional efforts to defund this move across town in Washington, D.C., and force this thing to go to Maryland. Just one of the many dramas playing out for the new FBI director, the one you just saw, Kash Patel.
A lot going on there. And there's also some developments in the federal probe examining the death of Daniel Park, who was charged in connection with the bombing of that fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California. What's the latest there?
Yes, things happen so quickly, it's easy to lose track of some of these very emergent issues from a few weeks ago. But you'll recall that explosion, that bombing of the fertility clinic in California. There is a man charged with being a co-conspirator. His name is Daniel Park from Washington State. He died in prison while awaiting prosecution on the conspiracy charge. He's 32 years old. Anytime a 32-year-old dies while in custody, there's going to be some questions. His defense lawyer tells CBS News tonight that this likely was a death by suicide, that it raises questions how somebody can die by suicide inside a U.S. federal correctional facility while being held in a high-profile case. There are going to be questions asked by his family and by investigators inside a Los Angeles detention facility, about which questions have been raised already about conditions inside.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much for all that reporting.